Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Reading from Srimad Bhagavad-gita chapter 2, text 23. Nainam chindanti shastrani, nainam dahati pavakaha, na chainam kledayantyapo, na shoshayati marutaha. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. The soul can never be cut to pieces by any weapon, nor burned by fire, nor moistened by water, nor withered by the wind. Purport: all kinds of weapons, swords, flame weapons, rain weapons, tornado weapons, etc., are unable to kill the spirit soul. It appears that there were many kinds of weapons made of earth, water, air, ether, etc., in addition to the modern weapons of fire. Even the nuclear weapons of the modern age are classified as fire weapons. But formerly there were other weapons made of all different types of material elements. Fire weapons were counteracted by water weapons, which are now unknown to modern science. Nor do modern scientists have knowledge of tornado weapons. Nonetheless, the soul can never be cut into pieces nor annihilated by any number of weapons, regardless of scientific devices. The Mayavadi cannot explain how the individual soul came into existence simply by ignorance and consequently became covered by the illusory energy. Nor was it ever possible to cut the individual souls from the original Supreme Soul. Rather, the individual souls are eternally separated parts of the Supreme Soul. Because they are atomic individual souls, eternally, sanatana, they are prone to be covered by the illusory energy, and thus they become separated from the association of the Supreme Lord, just as sparks of a fire, although one in quality with the fire, are prone to be extinguished when out of the fire. In the Varaha Purana, the living entities are described as separated parts and parcels of the Supreme. They are eternally so, according to the Bhagavad-gita also. So even after being liberated from illusion, the living entity remains a separate identity, as is evident from the teachings of the Lord to Arjun. Arjun became liberated by the knowledge received from Krishna, but he never became one with Krishna. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswate Deve Gaura Vani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyadi Bhashyata Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasiri Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Rama Rama Hare Hare. Nainam chindanti shastrani, nainam dahati pavakaha, na chainam kledayanti apo, na shoshayati marutaha. The soul can never be cut to pieces by any weapon, nor burned by fire, nor moistened by water, nor withered by the wind. We are still in the Sankhya Yoga portion here. Within chapter 2, it's divided into sections. So Sankhya Yoga here is a clear description of the soul, what it is, what it isn't. We will find in Bhagavad-gita here that Krishna's narration of Bhagavad-gita is very specific, very clear. What is the soul? It is spirit. What is spirit? What is matter? What is matter made of? Subtle matter, gross matter. What are the factors of action? What is action? What is not action? It's very clearly defined in Bhagavad-gita. There's nothing ambiguous. But there is a problem with modern so-called spirituality, where things are not properly explained. Who am I? Very clear. It should be clear. Why am I suffering? What am I? And what is my duty? What is the goal of life? Very clear, it should be clear. But modern so-called spiritual societies, they cannot give these answers in such a clear way. It's some nebulous, hazy idea. What is the soul? And especially religious people should be able to explain that. posing as a religionist, someone cannot answer the question of who am I, then what is the point? A person claiming to be a spiritual leader should be able to explain. Here, such a depth of knowledge on the soul, and this is Gita, this is the beginning. This is not the most detailed knowledge, that's in Srimad Bhagavatam. So the soul, is it eternal? Is it destructible? Do I die? Do I not die? Some say, okay, we'll be resurrected on the day of judgment. What will be resurrected? The body will be gone in the dust. As Bible says, dust thou art, and dust thou shalt become. You are dust. You means who? Me or the body? And the body will become dust. So then at the time of judgment day, everyone will be brought up and judged. Then what will be brought up? The dust. So we have to be very clear. Even within Sanatana Dharma, it's very fashionable among people posing as spiritual leaders, so-called gurus, etc., to speak of spiritual life in a very ambiguous way. And we guarantee that you ask the same question after 2 weeks, he'll give a different answer. Same person. Because actually they don't know. They are not speaking from Shastra. So it is not like this, that spirituality means something vague, not known, not able to explain. It is very defined. It's a science. Evam prasana manaso Bhagavad tattva vijnanam mukta sangasya jayate. Bhagavad tattva vijnanam, the realization of the science of God, is given in Srimad Bhagavatam, how to realize it. Evam prasana manaso Bhagavad bhakti yogataha Bhagavad tattva vijnanam mukta sangasya jayate. That somebody, well, it's a long series of verses explaining how the jiva can get scientific knowledge of God. So, knowledge of the self, knowledge of this material world, knowledge of God, the most secret, rahasyam hi etad uttamam, Krishna says in Gita, the most secret knowledge of God, and what is He doing, where is He staying, where will we find that? Very clear in Bhagavad-gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, describing the Vaikuntha. Vaikuntha is made of certain jewels and gems. It lists them in Sanskrit and English. And it is effulgent. It is not destructive. Other part of Veda tells us that people there sing to each other. No one walks, they dance. Then the Supreme Personality of Godhead is so attractive, and everyone is so attracted to Him, that they completely don't think about their sense gratification, because they're so attracted to the Supreme. So this is example of clear-cut knowledge of the Vedas. What to speak of the soul, myself, my body, and this material world, spiritual world, but God. Who knows about God? Who can explain about God? The form of God, His form, His abode, His associates, His activities. What is God doing? Detailed songs we have in our movement. What is He eating for lunch? In detail, we know. And what is the name of His personal servants? What time He goes out to take the cows, when He comes back, what He does, pretends to sleep, goes again to dance at night. Very, very clear. So this is Vedic knowledge. Clear cut here, Bhagavad-gita, soul. Detailed knowledge of the soul. It's common that in ISKCON new people come and they ask a question to someone, he answers, they ask someone else, he gives the same answer. Same answer. Or they sit in a lecture, I read this in the book. Or they're saying in the lecture. And my friend told me the same thing. This is a compliment. We are all speaking the same knowledge. Where is that? Who's doing that? Same knowledge, same books, everything is linked. And so we understand our philosophy is philosophy. It's not made up. Based on books, based on Shastra. So actually this is a compliment. And as we said, try to ask the same question to someone else. Some other religious society, ask it and come back after 2 weeks, ask the same question. What does he say? If they ask us, where is the soul residing? We'll answer. After 1 week, same thing. After 10 years, same thing. But really, I want to say, is that possible in other societies? So this clear-cut reply, this is religion, based on firm knowledge. This is Shastra, not contradicting, not nebulous, hazy, not hazy, very clear. So we should not be fooled. We should not be fooled by so-called religion, so-called people speaking on God. Actually, they are cheaters in practically every religion, within every system of religion. But we should understand that the actual knowledge is based on Shastra, and Shastra is very clearly defining God and who we are and what is our relation to God in a very clear way. Bhagavad-gita is a standard here. It is a summary of all the Vedas. So it's explaining the subject matter here of the soul. And we are supposed to read the Bhagavad-gita, it is very clear. So we are supposed to understand it and clearly understand everything and then apply it in our life. We'll read the Gita and understand the soul, what he should do, how he should act, how not to act for God. Yajna should be done. Yajna means any action for the Supreme. Cooking for the Supreme, offering to the Supreme. Yagni Shrishtina Santa Muchante Sarva Kilbishay. Those who eat food offered in sacrifice are liberated. That's an example given after explaining the concept of yajna. That is one example. That yajna is action for God. So we understand from Gita, we must act for God. Okay, understand it, how to act for God. How to do bhakti also. Bhakti means connecting to the Supreme in loving devotional service and acting gradually to advance and increase that devotion and that love. So Bhagavad-gita explains this very clearly. And also how we, soul, are indestructible. We are indestructible. We are not part of this material world. So fine, we got that knowledge. Here, detailed knowledge of soul. Cannot be cut, cannot be burned. We got that knowledge. Later on, more detailed knowledge that the soul and super soul are seated in the same place, and the jiva is meant to serve Krishna, and he's now been contaminated by different modes of nature. The material energy has contaminated us, and therefore our consciousness is not clear. This is all explained in Bhagavad-gita. Because of not having proper consciousness, our mind, senses, intelligence are contaminated and not our real mind, senses and intelligence. So what we have to do? We have to read this, understand it clearly and apply it. How do you apply this knowledge? How do you apply it is, we have to act on the spiritual platform, not on body platform. Acting on spiritual platform means that the soul is acting, in other words, the action is done for the Supreme. Yajna is performed, bhakti is performed. Acting for the Supreme Personality of Godhead is acting on the spiritual level, soul, not body. And if we do that repeatedly, body fades away. So in order to become free from the influence of this material nature, the jiva has to act on the spiritual level. Bhagavad-gita is training, giving that knowledge. Fine, but it's not just giving knowledge, it's actually action has to be done on that platform. To properly realize that I am the soul, not the body, clear knowledge is given, but finally we have to act. Arjuna acted. The knowledge Arjuna got was not for theory, it was practical, that he was able to do his duty and be fixed in knowledge. Part of the knowledge that Krishna gave is that you must follow what I'm saying. If you don't act what I'm saying, if you don't act according to what I'm saying, you'll be lost. You'll be lost because either we act for Krishna or we act for Maya, Krishna's illusory energy. So if you properly understand about Atma, soul, and how it's part of Krishna, that's given in Gita, and Prabhupada uses that statement where it says that Krishna says the living entities in this material world are my eternal fragmental parts. So Srila Prabhupada uses that statement also to say, to surmise that the soul is an eternal servant of God. That is the knowledge of Gita also. We are eternal servant of God, we are deathless. So we got the knowledge. Arjun got the knowledge. What did he do? He acted on it. We have to act on it. We have to live on the spiritual platform, which means acting using body, mind, words in service of Krishna. Iha yasya hare dasya karmana manasa gira nikhila abhi avasthasu jivan mukta sa uchyate. It says in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu that somebody acting with his mind, body and words, iha yasya harer dasya, as a servant of God, karmana manasa gira, engaging his senses, mind, intelligence, karmana, action, karmana, manasa, mind, gira, and words. In other words, body, mind and words. Engaging in service of Krishna, that is Hare Dasye, Karma Sagira, Nikhila Abhi, Nikhila, completely not dividing, unadulterated, Ananya, fully all those elements for Krishna's pleasure, then Jivan Mukta, we are liberated. So, how to become free, how to become free of material nature is that we have to act on the level of the soul. For that we have to know what is the soul. Where is the soul given in detail? Knowledge of soul, where is it given? They mention one word in some books. One word, one expression, some, not clear. It's not clear because if you ask them, we are talking about soul so clearly. In other religious systems, you ask them about soul, they'll not be able to explain properly. So, if we going to come out of Maya, we have to know what is Maya, what is soul, what is body. And if we don't have that knowledge, what is the hope? So we have to read Bhagavad-gita and understand what is the soul in detail. And beyond, why not? Beyond Bhagavatam. So now acting on the level of the soul, that is step 2. And acting on that level means free. Jivan mukta sauchyate, coming free from that. But then you have to know how to act. So the contamination of material nature, even that has to be understood. What is contamination of material nature? People don't know what is Maya, what are the gunas. So this is a deep subject matter. Bhagavad-gita is explaining in detail, and that's something that we have to get. We have to clearly understand it. And so we should not skip verses like that, where Prabhupada is explaining again and again. In this verse, information is being given about the soul. Krishna is telling Arjuna that whatever weapon you have on your chariot cannot harm the soul. In the previous verse, Krishna told Arjuna about how the body changes. We change new clothes, give up old clothes, wear new clothes. When that happens, we become happy. Some happiness. New cloth. I'm wearing new cloth. I'm comfortable. I'm presentable. And so Arjuna was thinking that yes, if I kill the body, soul is not dying, but he's going to miss his body. He was happy with his body. I'm taking it away, I'm killing. This is wrong. And Krishna said, to counter that argument, that those are old bodies. They'll get new bodies now. The new bodies will be young. Just like you put on new clothes, you'll be happy. So they'll be young. So now in the next verse, he says, anyway, the soul itself, whatever now, if you take up weapons and kill their bodies, they will not be affected. Not only whatever weapon you have, because as Prabhupada says, all kinds of weapons, swords, flame weapons, rain weapons, tornado, are unable to kill the spirit soul. Why? Because soul can never be cut to pieces by any weapon, cannot be burned by fire, moistened by water, nor withered by wind. We have some idea of different weapons. So now when we say, okay, soul cannot be cut, soul cannot be dried or wetted, so all right, we have some idea. But we don't understand what kind of weapons they had in the Vedic age. They had powerful weapons, elemental weapons. They were manipulating the material nature. So I took some liberty to look up some of these weapons, which were now still available, information available. So they listed about 50. We don't have time, and this is a Gita class, so I'm not going to go into science of war, but some idea to see what are these weapons. So one is called here Naga Pasham. Naga Pasham is you launch it, actually serpents, snakes will come around you and bind you. How do you counteract Naga Pasham? How? Through Garudastra. Garudastra can remove the Naga Pasham. Then you have a weapon called Anjalika. Anjalika is Indra's favorite weapon. I don't know what it is. Varunastra. Varuna, water weapon, which Varuna is his presiding over that weapon because he's presiding over water. So you say the correct mantra, you touch water for purification, and you chant the mantra, then Varuna will act. The water will come and flood everything. Mahendra Astra, and these were all used. They're listed. If you read Mahabharata, Ramayana, these weapons were used. Even Srimad Bhagavatam. Naga Pasham was used to tie up Bali Maharaj, is it? Yes. Vayavastra, wind. So this weapon, if you chant the mantra, then Vayu acts to create a center of low pressure. Anyone knows what happens if there's a center of low pressure, then a tornado comes there. Therefore they speak about an area of low pressure on the Arabian Sea or Bay of Bengal, which means a tornado starts building, then shifts, comes towards the land. So Vayavastra, chanting that mantra creates a center of low pressure, and what will happen? And immediately winds will rush there, a tornado will form and then destroy everything in that area. Aindastra is a projectile, because weapons can be elemental, earth, water, fire, air, ether, or it can be projectile. Elements are elements, Panchabhuta, or some actual weapon. Projectile means like a spear or something. Then you have Surya Astra. If you chant the mantra, then Surya Bhagavan, he will create a dazzling effulgence, dazzle everyone. Then you can attack, but also you can dry up water bodies and dry up the water in the bodies of the people. Okay, then you have, of course, Agni weapons, which every single weapon today in our so-called modern civilization is all simply Agni. Agni weapons, none of the others. Then Gandharvastra. Gandharvastra presided over by Gandharva, Chitragupta. And it was used by Abhimanyu when he was stuck in the Chakravyuha. Bhaumastra, Bhumi Devi. Bhumi Devi's weapon, if you chant the mantra for Bhaumastra, you will create an earthquake. Earth will shake and it may open, and also new land may come. So people knew the mantra, they can create land. Someone will launch a water weapon and create a flood. So then other one will chant the earth weapon and create the water and remove that effect. Okay. Then Antaradhama Astra will make things disappear. Yeah, we see this in cartoons and movies, but as I heard from one Maharaj, he said, even in some movies they draw futuristic cities, how they look. And he said, actually, the way they describe in Shastra, this is how it looks. These are past life memories of people. So when they have to create something, they're drawing on subtle past memories, and it comes out exactly like that. Shakti Astra, one of the most powerful celestial weapons. Parjanyastra, this is interesting. Parjanya means Parjanya Dana Sambhava. Parjanya means rain. So this weapon was used by Arjun when Bhishma was thirsty. He created water. Immediately water came, a lot of rain, and then water in a form of a flow through which Bhishma Dev, although lying down, was able to turn his head and drink. So I could go on, but we had to keep to the theme. So the point here is we are aware of certain weapons, but actually the weapons that were available to Arjun were so powerful, and everyone else, we cannot imagine. And those weapons, Krishna said, none of them can contact the soul. None of them. None of them can do anything to the Atma. No effect. So, Nainam Chindanti Shastrani. The soul cannot be cut. Nainam Dahati Pavakaha. Cannot be dried up by wind. If actually when someone dies, even in a desert or somewhere, then or in a windy place, then the wind dries up all the fluid and dries up the body. Not even the wind, the air. What is it? Shastrani, Dahati. Yes, sorry. Okay. Nainam Dahati Pavaka means cannot be burned by fire. Na chainam kledyanti apo. Water cannot moisten it. Na shoshati marutaha, cannot be withered by wind. It's interesting here now, it's saying that the soul cannot be cut. But now we have a philosophy among Mayavadis. Mayavadis say that the soul is fragmented from the Supreme, and that when he realizes himself, he'll again join up and become one. But here it's saying soul cannot be cut. So Srila Prabhupada is saying, and no doubt it was our previous acharyas would say the same thing for this verse, that if we had to take the Mayavadi explanation that the soul cannot, that is a cut separated by, that the Supreme whole has been fragmented into all of us, like we are all God. And then when we get liberated, it becomes all one. We become one with the Brahman, which is all pervading, which is characterless, formless. It is just conglomeration of energies. If we're going to believe that, then means that the soul was being cut separately. But here it says soul cannot be cut. Mayavad refuted. This is an argument. Here, Bhagavad-gita, you can't cut the soul. So why are you saying that we came, due to illusion, we came separated? Now we break the illusion and come again, we become God by merging into that godly Brahman. Not possible. Purport says, nor was it ever possible to cut individual souls from the Supreme Soul. It was not possible. Rather, individual souls are eternally separated because they are atomic individual souls. Eternally, they are prone to be covered by the illusory energy. This is the explanation. Explanation is, we are eternally fragmented, separated. Therefore, we are a small microcosm of what Supreme has. Actually, there's a shlok. Yatha jagat tatha pinda. Vedic astrologers, astronomers quote that. Yatha jagat tatha pinda. That means whatever we see in the creation, whole gigantic creation, a microcosm is in each body, including all the planets. So Shani, Rahu is represented in my body. So is Varuna and everything. Even the Supreme Personality of Godhead is here. So each body, now they're saying this in modern science. It's like each in your nail is an atom. It's a microcosm of the universe. It's all there in the Vedas. So that is there. The material body is a microcosm of the representation of the universe. But the soul is a small particle of the Supreme Lord and has the same godly qualities. That's also there. Therefore, Krishna says, Mamaivang Shajiva Loke Jiva Bhuta Sanatana. If we to say that we are godly is a big thing. We are having same quality as God, quality, but in a minute part. What does that tell us? That relation with God is so close that why did we break it? We have to go back to God. But if we say, of course, we are saying Dvaita. Dvaita is not, it's correct. Soul and God are different. But if it's emphasized heavily, Dvaita, then that desire that I have to go to God and worship Him is not so strong, because I'm different, I'm completely different. But Achintya Beda Beda Tattva, yes, we are different, but we are the same. There is a relation, there's a close relation to God. So then that desire comes, I have to renew that relation. Why did I break off? Krishna says in Gita, Mama Evang Shajiva Loke, they are my parts and parcel. Sanatana, eternally they are my parts. They'll never, no force of Maya, no force of whatever can separate jivas from me. They're part of me. So jivas, we are part of God. We should go back to God. That is a more accurate explanation than the Mayavadi one, which says that we are cleavable, the Supreme has been cut up and separated into us. And now we all have to come back into the Brahman, and that is the Supreme. No, Supreme cannot be cut. Nainam chindanti. Supreme soul cannot be cut. We cannot cut spirit. Rather, we are separated eternally, and because we are small microcosm, small representation of the godly qualities, they were overcome by Maya, which is but Krishna's exhibition of those divine qualities cannot be destroyed, cannot be overcome, because he is Vibhu, great. We are Anu, small. So here this verse is saying it very clearly. We are eternally so, according to Bhagavad-gita. Eternally we are part of God. Why did we break the relation? According to, so even after being liberated from illusion, the soul we can't talk about merging, because Krishna says, Jiva Bhuta Sanatana, Eva Angsha Jiva Bhuta Sana, eternally they're part of me. There'll never be a time Jiva will merge in. That is contradicting Bhagavad-gita. Bhagavad-gita, 90% of Gita is in the Upanishads, Kat Upanishad. So even if you don't accept Gita, saying it's part of Mahabharata, but it is Upanishad, Gita Upanishad, which impersonalists like to read, the Upanishads. Arjuna became liberated by hearing Gita, but he didn't become one. He was never separated. He was never cut in a separate way. But he is one with God. Simultaneously, he is separate. And therefore, it is bhakti. So, clarity of knowledge of Gita is here. And by understanding and by acting as like Arjuna did, clearly one can come to the point of perfection, but not if we misunderstand and take our Mayavadic theory. It's very clear we have to just take what it's written. If we get the wrong understanding, then we'll not get liberated. We'll have to come back in this material world. Understand that we are a soul, soul cannot be cut, so we are never cut from the Supreme and have to now merge and become God again, eternally fragmented. Hare Krishna. Any question? Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki Jai.